give about a minute for everyone to join.
Sure.
Yeah, I can see folks are joining now.
You don't hear any kind of background noise.
No.
Okay.
All right, so let's start. So hello, everyone. Thanks for joining. So today we are going to show a demo of how we can create a Kubernetes cluster and deploy 2 applications, maybe 3 on that cluster, all within a matter of 60 minutes. So I'm Rajat Krishnan. I'm the co-founder of Cloud Control. We have a platform called AppZ. That's what we're going to talk about today and demonstrate. So Sanjeev, you want to introduce yourself?
I'm Sanjeev Kumar. I'm heading the product development and engineering at Cloud Control.
And we also have Anusha on the line, so she's going to share the screen and she's going to demonstrate the whole process. So let's start. Again, as I said, the format of today's webinar is going to be, we are going to create a Kubernetes cluster, and Sanjeev is going to take us through what's going to happen when we actually trigger the deployment. And we are also going to deploy applications on top of that. So let's move on to the steps. The step 1 is to create the cluster. And while the cluster is getting built, so we are going to take some time to introduce AppZ Platform, and then we'll get into application deployment. So I'll start with the first slide. AppZ is a Kubernetes first application modernization platform. It is multi-cloud. It works with legacy as well as cloud native. And today we are going to show the demo on AWS cloud. Go ahead, Sanjeev.
Yes. The problem that we are solving, and why don't we start the demo so that it will be running in the parallel, and then we will continue? Will that be?
Oh, that's right. That's right. So, so let's switch quickly to. There you go. So go ahead, Sanjeev.
So what we are going to demo that this is a brand new AWS account, and we are running a cloud formation template to create AppZ Platform. Once the platform is up and running, that was as I mentioned in the last step, is the first step. We will be deploying 2 applications, Tomcat and Node, on top of that. So this cloud formation template is going to create close to 10 AWS resources, including EC2 instances, load balancer, storage, and the DNS entries. This account already has a domain called appzclient.com, and that will be used to establish the URL along with the certificate. It's an AWS public certificate, and all happening within a span of 30 minutes. So 30 minutes, like 10 minutes to create all the AWS infrastructure, which is the 3 EC2 instances and the rest of it, and then building those 3 EC2 instances into a Kubernetes cluster and deploying AppZ Platform on top of that.
And typically, Sanjeev, how long does it take from, say, if I have a brand new account? So you said there is some pre-work that we need to do before we start the template. So can you take us through, let's say, if I am a new customer and we want to install and start deploying application, Can you give us a timeline on, say, if we are promising that, this can be done in 60 minutes. So what does that 60-minute look like for a new customer?
So if it is a brand new AWS account, our current requirement is, and of course the customer will also understand that they have to have a domain on which they will be running this platform. So adding a domain, it takes some time. You have to register a domain, and whatever time it takes, couple of hours. But once you have a domain, then the step is like all the steps that we have described. It's fully self-service. This platform is available on the AWS Marketplace for the beta customers. It will be GA in the Q1 timeframe. So within an hour, you should be able to establish AppZ Platform into a brand new AWS account, and the platform is up and running to enable the GitOps from your GitHub repository to start deploying the applications.
So, and this is kind of basically a landing zone that we are creating with all the different components that you mentioned earlier, and all the services, all provisioned by this CloudFormation, correct?
That's correct. So what is happening here? Let me let me go into some details that we are creating the infrastructure, EC2 instances, and other infrastructure, and building platform which runs on the Kubernetes cluster. That's what we are doing. Now, the AWS infrastructure creation is, I would say, 15 to 20% of the automation. The rest of the automations are happening on those EC2 instances where our installer is running to build a cluster and deploy the core AppZ components, which includes a dashboard, a deployment engine, Cassandra, MySQL, the log collectors, and you will see some of these things kind of like visible from the dashboard also. And of course, the most important thing, HashiCorp Vault to store the secrets for the applications.
So the landing zone is created, and on top of that, the Kubernetes cluster comes up with all the necessary services that we need in terms of having a secure application deployment environment.
That's correct.
Right?
Yes.
And what take care of the observability. Sorry, go ahead.
Absolutely. So that landing zone, it would be, I would say, the developers as well as the operations interface to see how the applications are running. Developers will have ability to extract the log from there, monitor the performance. The same with the operations team, and even the auditors can log in and see that the complete SDLC of the applications, how it was deployed, and again, it is up to the customers how long they want to keep the applications team. We'll be discussing more in details that what we do, how we enable those logging and monitoring capability as we go along.
Awesome. So now at this point, the CloudFormation is running. It's creating this landing zone. So while that's going on, let's go to AppZ Platform. Let's give an introduction to the AppZ Platform. So Sanjeev, go ahead, please.
Sure. So this, I would say, like this deck is more geared towards if you are a development manager or if you are a project manager, and you have the limited and you are running late, and your say cloud migrations either from the legacy to cloud or just the digital transformations. You want to do the new things, you are running late, and the majority of that issues are because of the training and the cloud being complex, the new framework, the cloud native framework itself being complex, the tool selection, what to select and what to go with. We have a solution for that. We have a pre-curated platform which is ready to kind of like go live within an hour. As you will see, it will bring agility to your team, and the beauty here is that you don't have to learn the cloud. Whatever cloud we choose, our AppZ platform can establish there. And one thing to mention that although we are doing this demo in AWS, but exact same thing, as I said, that 80% of the automation is happening within our own installer. And that installer we have tested on all the cloud platforms. So this AppZ platform is available on all the cloud platforms. It is just that from the marketplace perspective, we have decided to go with AWS first. to make it fully self-service. But soon we will be available in all the cloud marketplaces. The increasing the agility means that you have a platform ready, fully secure platform available to start deploying the applications. The risk is a big factor. When you are deploying to the cloud, you are coming out of the four walls of a data center. You have to make sure that you are operating in a fully secure environment. Who you grant access. Our platform is very low touch and minimal privilege access. These things enable a very secure operations and reduce all sort of risk and the cost. If the platform is the low touch, so you it doesn't require the care and feeding which is needed for maybe the regular data centers, and of course, like you have to have the highly trained staff in your team to manage the cloud. Those things are minimized, and that brings the cost that you are looking for.
So when it talks about or when we mention this increased agility, what we are doing basically is we're lowering the barrier of entry, right? So
That's correct.
you don't have to go and get all the training, the certification, and you don't have to rely on a new engineer or a existing employee, getting trained. You get a secure landing zone, which is efficient, which is GitOps, low touch, and it comes up in 30 to 40 minutes, and it's ready to accept applications. Correct?
That's correct, Rajit. And let me add some more details to that. So the reason we build the platform is that not everybody has to learn the cloud. Not everyone has to learn the Docker Kubernetes to adopt the cloud. That's the challenge that the whole industry and everyone is facing. Do I have to learn the cloud? Do you have to learn the Docker Kubernetes? Yeah, learning is great, but what is happening that it is we are in an endless cycles. The cloud is a vast amount of resources available to be adopted, but the adoption rate is minimal. To say, US has at the most like 14 to 15%, and and people are still sitting on the data center, and it is a huge cost, kind of like the drag on them. We have clients who are live up and running in productions using their existing staff. Their staff are not trained on the cloud because we bring kind of like the cloud to them, and cloud becomes a consumable interface directly from our control plane. It's like electricity, or the electricity, simple example that you don't have to know how the electricity is generated, whether it's nuclear, thermal, but you still consume on a daily basis. You don't have to learn how an internal combustion engine works to drive a car. So why do I need to learn the cloud? Why do I need to be AWS and Google certified to operate the cloud? We bring cloud to you through an easy to use interface.
So you're up and running in 30, 40 minutes. So a couple of points from the slide. Let's clarify a little bit more. So here it says you get the landing zone in 30 to 40 minutes, any cloud. Now, application deployments are going to use GitOps. So the reason why we are bringing up a cloud account or a cloud infrastructure is for deploying our applications. I mean, that's what a customer would do. So can you explain a little bit more on application deployments using GitOps? What does that mean?
That's correct. So far we have been discussing more about the platform, so that how you get a usable interface on top of any cloud. And in this case, we are doing a demo on AWS cloud. For application deployment, what we have is called AppZ stacks. Stacks are curated images, and I would say like they are the underlying and the base components on which applications can be layered upon, and kind of like the go live in minutes. Um, the value of a stacks is in terms of a secure, like say, operating system and the core open source components which are required to run the applications, and the application developer do not have to learn the complexity of the Docker and Kubernetes to kind of like the go live. Although, as Arijit mentioned, that we are Kubernetes first, but we have also stacks which can support an end-to-end automation of the applications deployment on a virtual platform, and also offer the similar kind of the visibility which we offer for the Kubernetes deployed applications.
And the next point is also, I thought it's interesting, which is no kubectl knowledge required.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming this is for Kubernetes, right? So can you elaborate on that, please?
That's correct. So Kubernetes is and again, I would say like it's a recent phenomenon, maybe 5 to 8 years old, and it has taken the world, especially the DevOps community, by a storm. The reason being that it theoretically, and I would say like many people have proven this also, it offers a much better way to manage running applications. It's an orchestration engine for the Docker, and it is the best orchestration engine out there. What it offers is that if you have say 100 applications running in the data center and running on close to, I'll just example like 200 plus VMs. Not all the VMs are optimally utilized, and you have to kind of like manage the VMs, pass the VMs. It's a kind of like the data center operation itself is extremely costly. What Kubernetes is offering potentially, and it is valid for, I would say, 80% of applications. Some legacy applications may not fit into this paradigm, that I completely agree. But 80 to 85% of the applications can easily fit into, and that is where our value of AppZ stacks come into the picture. Those applications, and if I take the example of 100 applications running on 200 VM, that can be compressed to run on say 80 to 100 VMs in a cluster mode, in a Kubernetes cluster mode. That's the value that we have. The Kubernetes has to offer is offering, and we are taking advantage of that this platform, and that's the reason we are Kubernetes first. We advise our clients to go on this platform. We have stacks ready to walk this journey and take client applications to on the Kubernetes cluster on any cloud that they have chosen.
So Kubernetes, I mean, back to the kubectl. So Kubernetes is huge. I mean, the traction is amazing. So it's everywhere. So, but it is a technology very complex, right? So what we are saying is we don't have to train a team of developers on Kubernetes, and I mean, kubectl is a command that they are going to use to interact with Kubernetes, and the developers need not learn that with AppZ, right? So it's all managed for them. It's kind of a managed Kubernetes cluster running on top of your favorite cloud, correct? That's what AppZ is, right?
That's correct. That's correct. So we are providing out of the box microcade version of Kubernetes. We chose microcade because it is simple, it is always upstream, and it is easy to operate. So we have adopted that. Although, and that's kind of like a common denominator, we selected that we can deploy using the microcade on any cloud platform. And at the same time, we are also promising that we will be offering, we have already tested that. It is just a matter of that we will start offering instead of like if the client wants to run their own selection of Kubernetes, it could be the one of the managed cloud Kubernetes clusters like EKS or AKS. We are perfectly fine with that. Entire AppZ platform can run on top of a managed Kubernetes cluster in any cloud offered by cloud providers or by third-party vendors like Rancher or OpenShift. We are perfectly fine running the AppZ platform on top of that and offering the same kind of similar ease of operations to consume the infrastructure as we offer using our own Kubernetes version.
Awesome. So let's move on to the reduce risk part. So here we are talking about zero privileged access. To me, that's very important for most, especially when you are in the cloud, which is a public network, public infrastructure. With I'm sure the cloud provides certain level of security, but when you give access to your system administrators into that, infrastructure, there is risk involved. So can you elaborate on how AppZ will enable zero privileged access?
That's a good point, Rajit. So one thing everybody has to remember that if they are moving to cloud, um, ideally they should not bring in their legacy way to operate the uh, whatever they have been using in the data center. The data centers was in the four walls, and it was a secure environment. And of course, people with the badges will come in, and they have all type of the controls in place. The cloud is an open place, and they have to and although AWS and other cloud providers claim that they have the security in place, but it has to be managed in such a way that it is shared environment, and you have to put the controls in the place that who can log in, and if you can minimize that, and if you can say that there is no privileged access required to operate the environment, that's the biggest statement, and that's the promise that we are making. Uh, how do we make that promise? Because we enable the logging and monitoring capability from outside. So whether you are a developer, an operation, an SRE, you have access to the log from the control plane. We have our own control plane built in, but if you have a third-party tools to manage that, we can easily integrate with that. So the idea here is that you operate the cloud from outside. Nobody is logging in to do any changes, and also the changes what we offer is that even if you want to make some changes, that change has to come through a GitOps operation. This is the new model. The idea here is that we are not only supporting the application deployment, we are also supporting the change deployment against the infrastructure, be that infrastructure be cloud itself. That also has to be managed as a GitOps operation, and SRE and operations team can take advantage of that. We have multiple templates to support the infrastructure change deployment using GitOps.
And Sanjay, we also talk about military grade controls. I'm assuming these are the controls, of course, you spoke about already. And we also have approval workflows. Can you talk about that a little bit more?
Sure. Uh, what we offer is you cannot deploy any applications or for that matter any change in your infrastructure unless it has gone through a thorough review and approval process. um, Rajat and I and the whole team come from the financial services background. We have built enterprise grade applications, run the complete uh, platform, which was hosting kind of like the thousands of applications with a similar kind of model. So that experience kind of like we bring to the table, and we have baked our experience into this platform. Um, the controls are in place. Whatever we faced to auditors and answered their questions through our artifacts, and in terms of control, we have baked those controls in the product itself. Um, and approval workflow is one of the key one that say for you are deploying applications in the QA region, you have to follow a minimal of say two development manager and the QA person will approve it. For productions, you go and take approval from a business person, you go and take an approval from an infrastructure person. Whatever type of control you want to build in, we have readily available. We also have integration capability. If you already have an approval system, say like ServiceNow or Jira in place, we will integrate with that.
Awesome, thanks. So let's take some questions. I see a bunch of questions here. Um, uh, so the first question is, do we have enough documentation? If somebody new comes on board, do we have sufficient documentation to support them?
That's a very good question, and I would say we have the documentation, and I would say that being a startup, I completely agree that might not have done a good job on this. Um, as we are available in the marketplace for beta customers, if you follow the link, and again, if you're watching this video and want to do whatever we are doing here, want to do it in your AWS account, contact us. We will whitelist your account, and you can do the exact same thing in your own AWS account. Follow our document from AWS Marketplace self-service portal. You will follow the documentation site instructions and do whatever we are doing right now.
Awesome.
So go ahead.
Yeah. So now when it comes to the reduction of cost, right? We're going back to the slide. So we talked about reducing cost. So that is basically, resource. You mentioned earlier about resource utilization, and we are more resource. We are using the resource more efficiently. Can you elaborate on that and also some of the day two features?
Yes, the day two features kind of like include you want to upgrade and patching and do those type of things. This part is also more or less industry is moving towards in the like auto upgrade and the patching mode, and we do support that. And we also support kind of like you can configure it and maybe use a GitOps process to operate that. Also, like the day two, you want to scale. You may start with as a small as like right now we're building a 3 node cluster, but as your application grows, as your customer grows, you want to add additional. And that's another beauty here is that you are not creating a new VM and building a whole process here for that for application deployment. In this case, it is a cluster, and we are taking advantage of lots and lots of automation and the scalability feature which cloud itself has started providing, which which Kubernetes the framework itself is providing, and we are kind of like giving the customers an easy way to manage the entire operation. Auto scaling, you can have a GitOps operation, simply add 2 additional nodes to my cluster. It will get added, and your applications will be automatically scaled along with that.
All right.
Back to you.
Yeah, let's move on to the next slide. So behind the scenes, this is kind of giving an idea about how this AppZ works behind the scenes. Sanjeev, you want to explain that?
Sure. So as you can see, like there are two personas here on the left-hand side, developers and operations. And operations, I include the SRE and the support people, the people who kind of like maybe infrastructure team. And as you can see, both these persona are interacting with the GitHub or their source control system. Developers are bringing their applications. The operations teams are making configuration changes, and as I mentioned, that they are adding more nodes to the cluster. They are making some network policy change. They are adding some storage, and they are creating some more backups, like any type of operations that you can think of. As you can see that all they are doing is the submitting a request, and that request is coming to the AppZ platform, which you will soon soon which you will soon see that how the platform kind of look like. The the request from the GitHub is getting merged with what we call as the AppZ stacks. The stacks are application oriented. You will see some of the samples for Tomcat and Node.js. The stacks are also available for the infrastructure config operation and support, and they get merged within the AppZ platform and deployed to the Kubernetes cluster, which is built by the AppZ platform, which is the microcreate version, or which could be also a managed cluster running in the cloud. Once everything is up and running, the entire the operation, the whole workflow, the whole SDLC, either from the application perspective or from the infrastructure support perspective, they are visible from our dashboard, which is at the bottom, and they can also be used for the day two operations for alerting and monitoring.
Okay, so let's take more questions. Sharath is asking, what are the benefits of GitOps in a modern application?
That's a very good question, Sarath. GitOps, again, we have come a long way, so I can give you some of the historical perspective also here. that way back 10 years ago, when we were faced with audits, then we have to look for our mails. We have to look into our ticketing system, and the questions would be that show me 5 months ago you have some kind of like issue. Show me that how the change got deployed, who all approved it. Again, you are scrambling through the data, emails, service ticketing system, and all to produce that. What GitOps brings to the table is that each and every change in the system, and again, as I mentioned, that the change could be application change, the change could be infrastructure change, and we support both of them through the GitOps operation. So Git is kind of like logging the the details of the change happening either in the applications as well as infrastructure. That's one part. Now, Git also provides a built-in approval workflow, and some of the clients are using it that as well. Git also provides a review workflow, so you cannot move to a production branch unless two people have a like looked into, and we follow these best practices, looked into the changes and approved it. So you can so Git can take care of the review process, approval process, and once the change gets deployed, then kind of like AppZ platform comes into the picture, and as you can see that it will give additional visibility in terms of the build, in terms of the deployment. But the Git is the I would say the initial audit artifacts which are readily available, and I would say all modern applications are moving towards this model.
Awesome. So next question is from Ashik. So we support production grade Kubernetes like micro-K8s, right?
That's correct. That's correct. So as I said earlier, that we selected micro-K8 for its easy operation, and it is always upstream. That was the reason we used to operate KubeADM earlier, but as soon as this micro-K8 matured, we switched to this platform, and that's what we are using it.
All right. So let's move on to the next step. So at this point, the Kubernetes cluster is getting built. So Anusha, where are we with the Kubernetes cluster build?
Yeah, the cluster is built and the dashboard is up and running.
Okay, so
it's deployed the log.
Awesome. So let me share the screen here.
Oh.
Yeah, so Sanjeev, why don't you take us through the dashboard?
So this dashboard is showing some of the core applications and core applications from AppZ platform itself running on the cluster. The first set of core application is log collector. As I said earlier, is that we have a built-in logging and monitoring system, and that the log collector constitute of the Mongo database, Elastic, and Graylog. As I can see that Mongo database and Elastic are up and running, and the Graylog is in the process of getting built.
So the bottom line is, right, we started this Kubernetes deployment on a brand new AWS cluster about, say, 35 minutes back. And at this point, the cluster is up. So let's kind of, and then we are going to, before we go into application deployment, let's talk about, at a very high level, the details about the cluster. I know we spoke about the services that we are bringing up. Let's look at the cluster itself. So Sanjeev, can you take us through what came up so far?
That's correct. So as I said earlier, that we are building 3 EC2 instances, and those 3 instances, 3 EC2 instances are getting converted into a Kubernetes cluster, one master node and 2 worker node, as you can see here. On the master node, we are also deploying our AppZ platform, and AppZ platform constitute of the deployment engine. Our dashboard is also there, and etcd, this is part of the core Kubernetes, and our MongoDB, Cassandra, and all, and those things are going on the worker node, and you can see that those are up and running. And the Vault also is part of the core application, which will be getting deployed on the Kubernetes node.
Okay, and can you give us the kind of the three interfacing points? So I know we have the app URL, then the dashboard URL, and the webhook URL. So these are the three, I would say, the interfacing points into this cluster that is fully managed by AppZ, right? So can you kind of take us through the three interfacing points?
Yes, so the dashboard, what we call is the control plane, and as you saw the screenshot of that, that is where you log in and see all the applications up and running, and that is where you will go to look into the log of the applications, build, deployment, as well as the day to monitoring of the log. The webhook URL is the one which you will embed into your Git repo and trigger the deployment, and you will see that also getting added in the Tomcat and the Node applications. Application URL is talking to the ingress controller, which is running on the worker node, and this ingress controller is exposing the applications which have a web interface, and they need to be accessed from outside.
Got it. So that means at this point, we're ready to deploy the applications. So once the application is deployed, it automatically gets a URL, and I'll be able to reach the application through the app URL, correct?
That's correct. That's correct.
And if so I'm looking at it from a developer standpoint. So cluster is up. I have a Git repo. I'm going to go to the Git repo and put the webhook URL and do a commit. And that commit is going to trigger the deployment automatically into the cluster. And then I get a app URL to access my application, correct?
That's exactly the workflow that we are going to demonstrate.
Awesome. So, Anusha, are we ready to deploy the application?
Yeah, sure, Richard.
Okay,
I'm
so
ready.
let me share the screen. So, Sanjeev, you can take us through the steps. So Anusha, your screen is on right now. So go ahead, Sanjeev. And
yeah, let Anusha bring up the.
So what is the first application that we are going to deploy today?
I believe Tomcat, Anusha.
Yes, Sanjeev, we are deploying Tomcat.
Okay, so let's go to the webhooks first. Let's add the webhook first.
Yeah, sure.
So this is a sample application running currently hosted under eCloud Control account in github.com. So the goal is, when anyone want to try this, they could actually clone this and do exactly same thing, and they should be able to deploy to our to this new cluster. Correct?
That's correct. And this is a brand new AppZ platform that came in the AWS account, which Anusha is using. And the platform is up and running, and she is adding the webhook against that platform to deploy the Tomcat applications. I will go into the details of the Tomcat applications next, but let the webhook get added first.
Yeah, I'm adding the webhook.
And if once you build the platform from the marketplace, and this webhook URL will be visible from the CloudFormation template as well, and we will be sending a mail also to the user account.
Right. Awesome. So and that's a workflow that the developer is going to repeat, right? So every new project, they add the webhook, and when you commit, that gets deployed. So
that's correct. Yeah.
The next question is, hey, if it's a Tomcat project or a Spring Boot project or a React.js project, how does AppZ know how to deploy it?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
That's a good question. So, Anusha, why don't we look into the details of the project and let me explain. So, this Tomcat 9 Hello World is a Java project, and if you are a Java developer, you can see the Git repo will look very familiar to you. As you can see, a form.xml, which is used to build the application, the source file, the properties file, all these things are must be very familiar to you. One foreign file in this repo, which is AppZ. So this is the manifest which tells that enables this repo with the AppZ platform and enable the deployment of these applications using the AppZ platform. And it also, this enablement is happening through AppZ stacks, which I will go into some details. So Anusha, why don't you open AppZ?
Okay, Sanjay.
So as you can see, the AppZ is in the YAML in the declarative language, and it says that how the applications start with the top, like some app related information, then the build part, and the image template is the most critical part here, which tells to use the Tomcat 9 AppZ stack as the base image to build the application image. And this Tomcat 9 is a curated image with the operating system, with Java, with the Tomcat, and with logging and monitoring enabled. It has been proven through the Docker bench, Cube bench, vulnerability scan. So everything, this is a ready stack uh, to integrate with the application's Git repository and take the applications live. And that is what you will be seeing happening in a short while. So Tomcat 9 image template and other kind of like the Kubernetes required informations. Now the deployment strategy, it is going to deploy in the context alpha dev. That context is kind of like the pre-created in the cluster that we build. How many replicas of the applications? 2. What ports need to be opened are listed here. A strategy of deployment, which is rolling that we have selected. That means is that if there are 2 applications running, there will be a lag of 30 seconds between those 2 deployments. This way, applications is always up and running, and there will not be any downtime during the deployment. And at the bottom, we have certain properties which we can make some changes. And so, Anusha, why don't you commit a change and make some change in the properties?
Yeah, sure.
And Sanjay, we have several sample projects out there for pretty much every stack that we support. We have a sample project there that developers would be able to clone and deploy, right?
That's correct. So all these sample projects has some documentation also, which brings back, which kind of like links to the core documentation side and explains how uh, the how you can take your own Git repository or your own project live on the AppZ platform.
Awesome. We do have some questions. So, is there any notifications when the build fails?
That's correct. So it's a as you can say that we will log into the dashboard and you can see that the build is happening. It is preparing, then it will be running. If it fails, that you can get the now it is running. If there is a failure, which happens, of course, the software, you will see the details here, as well as you will get alerted via email. Either success or failure, both will get alerted.
And so let's say I deployed this. So when I have a build happening and the post build, can I see the logs? How do you see that?
That's a good question. So as you can see, there are 3 sections here: build, deployment, and monitoring. And the build has the build artifacts, and we can take a quick look on that. The deployment will have. Anusha, why don't we look at the build artifacts for this one?
Yeah, sure. The Tomcat one.
Yeah. Let's see that what change got made and what change is getting deployed. So click on the top GitHub link, and this tells that what was the change in the Git repo that triggered this build. The webhook picked up this change and it is deploying it. So let's go back to the screen. And if you're a Java developer, you will know the POM XML build. So the entire process is happening here. The build is getting completed, then it will get pushed to the repo.
So
Okay, I think
you get full visibility into the build itself, and then if the build fails, I get an alert,
yeah,
and if I can use this view to kind of figure out if there is anything wrong or if what went wrong.
that's correct. That's
Okay.
correct. So the beauty of the platform is that the developer is not logged into any system. We don't have to enable developers privileged access to any system to troubleshoot this. Everything is visible from the single dashboard, and it's not one. It's a group of developers. They can share. And this is the deployment in the dev region, and as you can see that from after build, it will go to deployment seamlessly. That is how we have set up by default. If it is a QA region or prod region, there has to be an approval between build and deployment to take the applications live.
So when I look at the build log, and if I look at the deployment log, so when I get into, for example, you talked about the audit trail. So what about vulnerabilities and things like that? So if I, we can, so we can integrate with vulnerability scans, and how does that work?
That's correct. So we have our own vulnerability scanning as part of our own build that we provide. Our all stacks are scanned using AppZ as well as the white source, and we can also integrate if customer has say Veracode or some other systems, we can easily integrate with that, and those will be available. We also have an alerting and capability. So as the build is happening, if you want certain severity to be alerted, or maybe the build may be stopped, we have ability to do that. So we provide a lot of the SDLC capability out of the box, and all offer easy integration with the enterprise toolset, whether it is for the scanning, logging, and monitoring, or anything.
Okay. And here is a question. So in the dashboard that we are showing, do we have role-based access control?
That's a good question, Pratesh. Yes. What we do is that if you log into the dashboard, you will see applications which you are part of. You will not see the applications which somebody else application. You will not be able to browse the logs and other artifacts for that application.
All right. So next question. So yeah, so application errors. So let's say the application is deployed, and now something happened within the application, and we spoke about the observability. Can we also generate alerts out of that application log?
That's a very good question, and I would say answer is yes, but let me go into some details. And one more thing is that this alerting capability not only available for the applications running on the Kubernetes platform, it is also available for the application running in the VM. And the way we do is that all the logs of the applications we have fluentd as part of the image stack, and we can enable for the virtual environment also. All the logs are getting shipped to our Elastic, which is available. We can of course integrate with the client's Elastic also. And as the logs are arriving into Elastic, we can have custom monitoring built in for certain type of like pattern, and let user get alerted. We already have built in alerting mechanism for those patterns, so that they will know right when the error happens, and maybe in a position to take corrective actions. Of course, they can go to the dashboard and look into all the details all the time, but they can get alerted and do some more troubleshooting and fix the issue.
Okay, sounds good. Next question. Can we build and deploy multiple projects simultaneously?
Yes. That's a and again, as I said, that we come from a background where we were supporting 1,000 applications with a similar type of like the control plane, yeah, against a private cloud. So yes, the single AppZ can handle a scale. And again, what we do behind the scene is that we have a RabbitMQ architecture, which queues the things and continuously keep calling. We have multi-threading available. So yeah, that's not a problem.
All right. So the next question is, I know we spoke about webhooks. What happens if it's in the private network where webhooks are not permitted?
That's a very good question. And in fact, we have some clients who were in the same situation, and we have to provide a solution for that. So our solution is that on our platform, we also run what we call is the Git poller and image poller, and depending upon that how you want your artifacts to be pulled, directly from the Git or directly from a kind of like a built repository like Artifactory or Nexus. We have both the images. What these images enable is that as soon as the change happens, and these images, these processes, you can call it like AppZ processes, uh, scan the Git or the repository and see if there is any change. And if there is a change, those get picked up and deployed using the Git token. And in this case, the webhook is not needed.
All right, let's moving on to the next question. So when it comes to the cluster itself, so when the cluster goes down or cluster has any problems, can we get the alerts?
Yes. In fact, we have alerting built in for the infrastructure components also. So definitely it will get notified. And 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 one thing to note here is that the master node, if the master node or AppZ goes down, so we can definitely alert. But beyond that, the applications will be running live in this case. And for productions grade, as I say, that there must be multiple master also running, and we support that.
That's great. So let's trying to get the next question. So can we raise any issues through dashboard, or which method to use? So for example, let's say AppZ support,
Yep.
right? How does that work? So we want to talk about the Slack channel and
Yes. So once you sign up for that, we have a strong support system, and we can also include you if you're interested as part of our Slack channel, which is with the support personnel and as well as our technical staff who will answer a question on a real-time basis and help you with any type of support-related issues or technical questions.
All right. So let's go back to the screen share. So at this point, it looks like the application is up and running. So this is the application that we deployed.
Yep.
And so going forward, let's say if you want to make a change in this application, how does that work?
It's simple. Like the applications got deployed using the GitOps. If you want to make a change, follow the GitOps. Make a change. In this case, it is development environment. It will seamlessly get deployed.
Awesome. So when it comes to security, so we said we have secret manager embedded. So how does that work when it comes to, let's say, if I have, we just showed how a Hello World will be deployed, but if the Hello World application has a secret, right? So what does the process look like in terms of putting the secret into the secret vault, and how will I consume it? Do I need to change my application? And that's one of the biggest worries for developers. There are so many secret managers. How are we making sure that the secrets are managed properly, and how is it integrated with the application?
Yeah, that's a very good question, and it's a very big topic also, and I would say like industry-wise concern, especially running the production grade application. So the way we solve this problem is that let me first speak about the developer point of view. The developers need to declare their secrets. By declaring means like as a variable as in the properties file. So they will simply say that this is a secret, and they will declare a variable for that, and with vault appended to it. The AppZ will understand that this is a variable that needs to be pulled from vault, hastic of a vault, which is which is pre-built as in part of the AppZ platform, and it needs to be pulled at the runtime. So applications, and how do we inject the secret? For AWS, what we have done is that we have integrated this with the secret manager. So the security team and say InfoSec team, they will add the secret because they are the custodian of the secrets. Developers ideally should not know the secrets. If developer knows the secrets, then I think we do not have the separation of duties, which we always enforce. So those secrets are managed by someone or like automatically inserted into the secret manager. What AppZ does is that it has a running process to sync the vault with the AWS secret manager. So application secret is loaded into the vault, readily available to be consumed while deploying the applications. AppZ platform, while deploying the applications, gets the secret from the vault and start running the application. Developer never knows the secret. They do not need to know the secret.
All right. So Sharath asked a question. So Kubernetes upgrades. How will that work? Can we do that without downtime?
That's a very good question, and I will take a stab at it. But definitely, you will also add to that.
Sure.
So, if it is the minor upgrade, I would say yes, possible. But if any kind of the major upgrade, in fact, the Kubernetes also doesn't recommend like going without the downtime. So, answer is yes and no, and it depends on the situation.
Yeah, I think the key factors there are, so yeah, we can support an upgrade without a downtime, but it also depends on the application.
Yeah.
Because the application has to have, just like the way, if you look at AWS or Azure, they also recommend a multi-region deployment. So make sure that, when you deploy your application, the application is resilient. For example, when a Kubernetes upgrade happens, there are points at which some nodes are going to be down. So you want to make sure that you deploy the application with multiple replicas across multiple AZs, so that when the upgrade happens, Kubernetes have room for you to for Kubernetes to accommodate your application in a resilient manner. So it's kind of a shared responsibility. That's the best way to put it. So we have basically guidelines, best practices that application teams can follow in terms of how to achieve it. So I think now we reached the end of the session. It's just 1 minute to go. So Sanjay, you want to add any comments?
My last comment would be that if you watched this video and would like to try the same thing, running AppZ within your AWS account and deploy sample applications, contact us and share your account ID. We will whitelist. We are running a beta program right now. We will be live GA in the Q1 timeframe.
Awesome. Hey, thanks everyone for joining. Please do contact us if you want to participate in the beta program. And also in the coming weeks, we are going to have some workshops. So some of our webinars are going to be workshops where you will be able to clone a project and deploy to the cluster that we are demoing in, in real time. So that is coming. We plan to do the first workshop probably first week of December. So please stay tuned. Hey, thanks everyone for joining and all the questions, amazing questions.